Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a throwaway account in the relationship subreddit. The post is titled, "I think my wife's best friend is developing feelings for me, but my wife doesn't want to believe me because it's her best friend." Okay, yes, I am aware I am going to sound arrogant and like a narcissist. Get over it. My wife and I have known each other for a total of about 20 years. We have dated for 9 and been married for 5. She has known her best friend D since the end of high school and early college. They are like sisters. D has horrible luck with guys, abusive relationships, toxic relationships. She has had it all and some. I know this because she vents about it to my wife and me all the time. Recently, she just got through a particularly rough relationship, which she decided she was no longer going to date and would just be single for a while. She began making comments to my wife about how lucky she is to have me, and that it must make her feel so good to have a supportive, caring, loving man in her life to take care of her. This is when her changed behavior began. She has been very clingy with me. She never was before. When she comes over, she rests her head on my shoulder or sits on my lap. She tells me all the time that I make her feel safe and comfortable. She always asks how my day is going and if I'm happy to see her or how I think her body looks in her outfit, which she kind of did before, but now she draws attention to her feminine areas. A joke was made by my wife about D being my second wife, doing all the stuff my wife does not feel like doing. D jumped on this and now refers to herself often enough as a second wife. My wife thinks it is funny, and it was until D sent me a picture of a ring she wanted because even your second wife needs a ring. I have brought all this up to my wife because I do not want to keep her in the dark about anything, and as she just says things like, that is just her, or she does not mean anything by it. My fear is that D is getting what she has never gotten from any of her past relationships. Comfort, validation, safety, and that she will become attached to this sort of fantasy. I do not want my wife to think I am doing anything behind her back, but as I've stated, she just brushes it all off. Am I just being too observant, or is there something there my wife is not seeing? Thoughts. Update. Thank you for everyone's input and advice on my situation. There are some questions I keep seeing, so I will answer them below. Sitting in my lap, this has happened only twice. Both instances were at parties where there was no seating left where I was sitting. I actually offered her my seat, which she accepted and sat on my lap. Yes, both times were in front of my wife and she thought it was funny. Rather than make a scene by asking her to get up, I waited until an opportunity came, such as needing more food, drink, or to use the bathroom. Is she attractive or am I attracted to her? By society standards, she would be considered very attractive. By those same standards, my wife would not be as attractive. That being said, my wife is exactly what I want in a woman, just speaking physically at the moment. My wife is short, has very pale skin, long curly brown hair, and is not skinny due to the children we have had together. I love my wife the way she is, and we are working together to help her lose the baby fat she wants to lose. D, on the other hand, is taller than me. I am 5 feet 10 inches, has tan skin, straight dirty blonde hair, and is skinny. Again, she is attractive, but just not what I am into. Now for the update, I talked to my wife about everything going on and my concerns using some points people brought up in comments. It turns out my wife is aware of the situation and is actually partially behind it. Apparently, she brought up the idea of using me to show her best friend what to look for in a guy as a good example, but it has gone a little farther than she thought it would. Forgive her, she had good intentions, so we are both going to sit down with D and talk about everything next time she comes over. Update 2. Firstly, thank you everyone for your good advice. This will be the last update to this crazy series of events. Now, let's get to what you are all waiting for, the update. D came over and we all sat down at the table. The kids were at their aunt's for the night. I stated that I wanted everything to come out. All of the cards on the table. I wanted to know everything. So this is what went down. Dee has always had awful luck with men. She vents to my wife and me about it all the time. During a conversation when I was not present, Dee said something along the lines of wishing she could find a man like yours because she will never know what it feels like to be genuinely wanted and appreciated. My wife made a bad decision and, in trying to comfort her friend, suggested treating me more like a boyfriend than just a good friend. Nothing physical, just support, comfort, and validation for a little to get an idea of what to look for in a man. Dee said she was fine with that, but when she started to get it from me, she wanted more and started to cross boundaries to get it. I asked my wife about it, and she said it caught her by surprise but did not exactly make her uncomfortable with her friend. It was actually the mentioning of Dee wanting a ring that finally made her realize this was getting out of control. My wife said she realized that she messed up, but did not want to say anything to me about it. I explained to both of them very thoroughly how ridiculous this entire thing is, how there were better ways we all could have helped, and how this could have destroyed friendships and marriages. They should have come to me, and we all could have figured out ways to help each other together. There were apologies from both parties. Dee is still our friend, and she will be coming over in a few days for us to discuss how she can potentially work on herself and things to look for in men she has an interest in dating. My wife is very sorry to Dee and me about the entire thing, so in the end, my wife made a mistake that she is remorseful for, learned from, and will come out better for. Dee will have help working on herself and working toward a healthier future. And then there is me tired and I want a beer, laugh out loud. Thank you again, everyone, for your good words and advice. I am sorry if this is not the outcome you hoped, thought, or predicted, but life is unpredictable and I am glad this is over. Oh, and there will be no threesome. Kelly Crackle said, "This one was deeply weird to me, and I say that as someone who spends a frankly unhealthy amount of time on BOR. Who are the people who think like this? Maybe I am just lazy, but proper communication would have been way less exhausting than whatever the hell this was." To this comment, user Wandering Dream said, "Even as a former non-communicator, I literally cannot understand how people would rather do things like this than communicate. I know people who do very irrational things instead of communicating because vulnerability and hard conversations are scary. What?" This final story was made in the Off My Chest subreddit by a user named No Nectarine. The post is titled, "My fiance invited his ex-situationship to our wedding behind my back. I am 23 years old and am getting married in January. I just found out my fiance Mark, who is 25 years old, invited his old situationship to our wedding without consulting me. For context, Mark and I met on a dating app 2 years ago after he broke up with someone. To be honest, it is quite confusing what he and Tracy, who is 22 years old, had. They met because of a mutual friend and started to develop feelings for each other. Mark told me they never dated but slept together, and it was more than friendship. Even now, he keeps her love letters, gifts, and talks about her. Tracy and he tried to stay in contact after the breakup, staying friends, but she ghosted him after finding out we started to date. From what I saw on her social media, she is in a relationship, so I am not worried about her trying to get with my fiance again. They have not been in contact for 2 years, but he still has her number and email. I found out about him inviting her after I checked our guest list again and found her name. I know Tracy is not a threat to our relationship, but Mark inviting her behind my back makes me feel bad about our whole wedding. He told me he does not feel anything for her, yet he made sure to send her an invitation. This is probably me being insecure, but my fear of him not getting over her is slowly creeping into my heart. I do not want to lose him." Update. After reading the comments and talking with some friends, my heart finally understood that Mark never really got over Tracy. In the beginning, I was in denial, but I went out with Tom, who is 24 years old and Mark's best friend for years, to understand what really happened between them. From what he told me, Tracy and Mark met because of some friends in common. She had just entered university and was 17 at the time, while Mark was already almost graduating. They stayed friends for 2 years, and feelings started to blossom. Mark was already working while she was still in college. He only wanted to formally date her after her graduation, so it was never a proper relationship, even though they shared love letters, gifts, and spent almost every holiday together. Tom told me everyone from their old friend group thought they would marry since they were so sweet together. So their breakup was really unpredictable. Tracy was the one who broke up with Mark due to their religious values not lining up, as she wanted to save herself for marriage. In the end, they decided it was better to go separate ways and maybe try again after a few years. But after Mark and I started to date, Tracy realized it was pointless to wait for him and started to see other people, so she blocked him on everything except email, just to have a clean beginning. In the end, I finally realized that Mark is just hopeful that Tracy will come back to him due to their talks of trying again after a while. It honestly hurt so much, as I loved him deeply. I still have not confronted him since I am still shaken up, but I do not know if this marriage will happen. I'm going to update once I calm down and confront him. Update 2. It has been a while since the last update, and I am here to announce that the wedding has been called off. My parents are the ones canceling everything for me. It feels like I have returned to my childhood when my mother and father had to solve my problems. I confronted Mark after talking with Tom and made him aware of everything I've been dealing with. His initial reaction was dismissive, almost as if he were trying to escape from the situation. In the end, Mark admitted he never loved anyone like he loved Tracy because it was pure and innocent. She reminded him that not everything is about physical desire, and in the darkest moments of his life, Tracy was like a ray of sunlight. Hearing the man you love confess how much he loved another woman is incredibly hurtful. During the conversation, I started to cry, sobbing uncontrollably. Mark had the audacity to say he loves me, but that it is a different kind of love. I asked why he invited Tracy to our wedding, and he was speechless. Why did he have to throw away our future for something in the past? This hurts so much. Mark told me he knew Tracy did not block him on email since he helped her get her first job, and there were a lot of professional matters involved. That is how he was able to send her our wedding invitation, but he claimed he meant no harm. When I pressed further, Mark said he wanted Tracy to see us together and realize what she lost, because he was hurt that Tracy was pregnant and not married. The moment Mark mentioned Tracy's pregnancy, alarm bells went off in my head. How did you know about her pregnancy? You said she blocked you everywhere. I could see panic in his eyes as he started to stutter. I made him hand over his phone, and I found more than 5 accounts used to stalk Tracy. My stomach turned and I felt an overwhelming urge to vomit. I decided to call off the engagement since he was a creep. Mark threw himself on the floor, begging for forgiveness and declaring his love for me, saying it was just different from the love he felt for Tracy. He said he was just hurt that she gave herself to another man while he had begged her countless times for sex. This made me feel even more disgusted with him because he felt entitled to her virginity and her body. I left without even taking a bag with me. Everything is just too much. I cannot believe I spent 2 years loving a stalker, a grown man acting like a child. Oh, and I also told Tracy everything and reported his accounts. I do not know if she saw my messages, but I hope she does. The jealousy I once felt for her has turned into pity, as no woman should go through what Mark has done. Mark wants to meet up with me and does not want to break up, but I am just so tired. Edit, Tracy messaged me and wants to grab a coffee with me. Update 3. I think this is my last update since I have already met up with Tracy and talked about what happened. Tracy and I met at a cafe, and in the beginning I was really nervous as I did not know how she would react, because her reply was only, "Hi, let us talk over a cup of coffee." When I was waiting for her, I could feel my back sweating, and overall I felt a lot of emotions. Tracy arrived, and I finally understood why Mark was so obsessed with her, as she is definitely one of the most beautiful women I have seen. She looks pretty in photos, but in person, she looks even better. Tracy said hello to me and asked if I was willing to go to her house to talk, since being outside for too long makes her really tired. We ordered some coffee to go, and it was super awkward. Now, let us talk about what she told me. First of all, she apologized for being the reason I am now single, which I assured her is not her fault. Tracy said she received the invitation but was simply not interested in participating in the wedding, as she is already in a happy relationship and thought it would be pointless to see a person from the past. With the story Tom and Mark told me, I got curious and asked about them staying friends, as it sounded like she wanted to stay with him after the breakup, and it is the polar opposite of her behavior. Tracy was extremely uncomfortable with this question, but still explained to me why she said that. In the beginning, she was really in love with Mark because he was her first love. She described him as a protector, someone trustworthy, handsome, and kind, as he always showered her with gifts and trips. Everything was fine and sweet, but over time, Mark started to beg her for sex so much that she would pretend to be sick just to avoid him. She just did not want to sleep with him and had some sort of blockage, like a sixth sense telling her not to do it. She grew tired of all of this and used the fact that her parents are extremely religious to justify why sex was out of the question. This led to a fight which Mark never mentioned to me and to them breaking up. But 2 weeks later, they started to talk again as she felt in debt to him because he helped her get a job at a prestigious company and spent a lot of money on her with trips, food, and presents. One of the gifts was a Rolex for her 18th birthday, which made me angry since he never spent that much money on me. So when Tracy found out that Mark and I were seeing each other, she felt relieved and finally had a proper reason to block him everywhere, since he was still sometimes hinting about them sleeping together. In the end, I told her that in my whole relationship, Mark would sometimes talk about her, and in the beginning it felt kind of weird, but I just brushed it off since she was part of his story. I also talked about Mark's numerous accounts, and in the beginning she did not believe me, but I showed her the accounts I knew, which was creepy, since they all had female names, followers, and pictures. All of them looked real. Her account is public, so I asked Tracy to make it private. She made a new account with her Korean name and deactivated the old one. We ended up having fun and even became friends. She is a really sweet person, and I saw how her boyfriend treated her like a queen. I am happy she found love and got rid of Mark. 9 months later, OP gave us their final update. Recently, I logged into my account again and decided to give an update about my life, as it is so crazy to me that almost a year ago, my tears were uncontrollable because of a man. Tracy got married a few weeks ago and I was invited. It was a beautiful ceremony and her baby was part of it. It was refreshing to see the glow on her face and to witness that she found the right person for her. We are not too close, but it is still nice to spend time with her and to accompany her journey as a wife and mother. Meanwhile, I am not interested in relationships for a while. I received a promotion and am considering moving to another state, as my company offered me a position with better pay. Not being engaged actually allowed me to concentrate much more on my job, as I've been able to work extra hours and focus on my career. I do not have many updates about Mark since I cut off contact with him, his family, and friends who took his side. The last thing I heard is that he was telling everyone how controlling and abusive I was and that he had to call off our engagement. This is not my business anymore and what he says does not matter, but Mark is definitely miserable. I am going to take this summer and travel to Greece just to celebrate life. Thank you all for the advice. If I had not posted on Reddit almost a year ago, I would have been married to a guy who never saw me as his first option. Polka Dot Pygmy Puff said, "This is why people should not even think of marriage at such a young age unless they are in a deeply committed relationship for a long time. She thinks 2 years is a long time to get over someone because time works differently when you are younger. As you get older, you start to realize just how little time 2 years actually is in the grand scheme of things. Honestly, she sounds very immature in general." Living Growth said, "Dodged a liar and a user. You were a replacement for Tracy. Good riddance. I hope you find the man of your dreams and that he gets fatter, uglier, and tanks in his job while you soar and thrive." Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, Gamersubs. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.